How does it feel? Rotten, there's no other word for it.
Bijna 20 jaar is nu dat grensmaasplan.
We've been waiting almost 20 years for the Mars project to come here. I went to all these community meetings, and you expect decisions to be made. You hear all kinds of plans, but now finally they've started carrying out the project just this year.
Eindelijk is het toch zoiets, en dan zien ze ontgraven. En toen zag ik...
They started digging, and I saw it's time to stop. The future's done, the business is finished. It's gone.
Fons is the last Bergmans to farm the land. Now he wants to take a new direction.
Maar begon hij zo van alle dat toch gaan afbreken en vakantiewoningen maken.
We'll try to convert this into holiday homes and make something out of what we've got.
Ja, met alles wat hij nog steeds dan. Proberen toch nog het ervan te maken dan. Misschien ook met
Maybe with tourists we'll make something out of it.
Nou, dan kon de kinderen wel weer mee weigeren dan. Hij is misschien toch wel het...
Isn't life what you make of it?
Dan moest je het doen in het leven, hè.
But it may not be that easy.
Het is niet zo dat mensen hier straks een recreatiegebied hebben.
This is not a recreational area. You can't swim here. It's only meant for nature conservation.
Want nu staat het 2-3 dagen per jaar.
Now it'll flood sooner than before.
Het zal in de toekomst iets eerder zijn, maar dat is ook de bedoeling van het project.
At the moment the farmland floods 2 or 3 days a year. Soon it will flood more often. But that's the point. When the waters rise there will be more room for the Maas River, so that the areas behind won't get flooded.
Meer bergruimte voor het Maaswater. Ja, toch wel mooi, denk ik.
I think it will be beautiful.
The Netherlands' relationship with water is complicated. With it comes prosperity, but also destruction. The Dutch have developed a new strategy to work with water rather than fight it. Fons Bergmans suffered repeated floods in the early 90s. Now he's given up part of his farm to create a controlled flooding area. He knows how mercurial the River Maas can be.
De Maas is ons leven.
The Maas is our life.
De Maas is
The Maas is Maastricht. That's what the Maas is. And the people who live along the riverbanks know the River Maas best.
Wat de Maas is. De Maas is emotie, dood.
The Maas is emotion, death. People have drowned here.
Verdronken.
There are many songs about the Maas. Very nice songs they sing in the cafes of Maastricht.
Heerlijke liedjes in de café. Hey, ja, la, la, la. Zo gaat het dan, heerlijke liedjes. Vroeger, toen we klein waren, hier allemaal van die kleine...
When I was little, we used to fish in the river. Lots of people learned to swim here as well.
Zwemmen, vroeger, die hebben hier verloren bij leren zwemmen. Ja, dus het is schitterend.
Yes, I'm proud that I was born by the Maas.
Trots dat ik op de Maas geboren ben.
Scientist Louise Fresco says the Dutch now have an opportunity to rethink their attitudes to water.
Well, the Dutch have been very complacent, of course, in the last couple of decades about water because the problems actually were not visible in day-to-day life. I think we're now moving into a situation where we're thinking again about water not only as something to be controlled, but also something which is part of our environment, part of our habitat, and something we have to live with. And I think we are very optimistic about new creativity that is generated by thinking through how in the future we will live with water.
Alexander Henny is an architect with a vision for the Netherlands' new water-filled landscape. He not only lives and works on a houseboat, he's one of the country's top designers of floating houses. In fact, his practice is called aquitecture, combining his love of architecture with his love of water.
This is a scale model of a design I've made for a new type of floating house. There's a concrete foundation which floats, which is hard to understand for most people, but because it's hollow, it's lighter actually than the water surrounding it, which keeps it floating. In the lower part, which is partially submerged, you have the sleeping facilities. On top of that there's the living room, as you can see here, with the kitchen. And here's a third elevation which can be filled in any way you like. It could be studio or a bedroom, extra bedroom.
Alexander has a lifelong affinity with water.
My relationship with floating home started as a very young boy. I grew up on a houseboat on a river. In the Netherlands and probably in other places as well, houseboats are often compared with trailers. So there was a kind of stigma on my living conditions, which in a way was strange to me, because I really enjoyed growing up on the water. Living on the water has something extra compared to living on the land. At least it does for me, and I know it does for a lot of people. Dutch are very connected to the water. There's also the water itself. It just has a calming effect, and in a way it doubles your view, because everything you see gets reflected in the water.
Jan Abercrombie owns one of the 19 floating houses in Utrecht, designed by Alexander Henny.
Here in our bedroom we are, I guess, about 5 feet underwater. The water level is about here. And if we look outside these windows, we overlook the water surface. And it's nice. It's of course it is not attached to any other house. It stands alone. It floats. So you feel when it is stormy, it moves, sometimes quite a bit. If we go up to the first floor, we get to the roof terrace. It's a nice large roof terrace. We don't have a garden, but we have a lot of outside, as you can see.
This is the factory where Alexander Henny's designs are brought to life. It's building, but not in the traditional sense. For a start, floating houses are actually built on water. Each takes an average of 12 to 13 weeks. And when ready, can be towed, like this one, onto its final location. Trade is brisk. There are a lot of potential clients. But there's a snag. A floating house can be simple to make. Finding a location is more difficult.
Many people come to me and ask if I can design them a floating house. I say yes, I can, but the key factor is, do you have a location? And if they don't have a location where it's possible to moor their floating house, then it's basically end of the story.
With more water on the Dutch map, floating homes sound like the perfect solution for urban planning. But according to Alexander Henny, there won't be communities on the water anytime soon. So what's the hold-up?
In my point of view, many politicians are still holding back against the development of floating houses and the combination of living on the water. It's a very new process which takes a lot of time, and it's very hard to pass through all the laws in the Netherlands, because there are a lot of restrictions.
Not surprisingly, perhaps, Tineke Huizinga thinks differently.
Really, I think this is a subject where, well, politicians really are the ones who are looking far ahead and walking ahead of everybody, not following others, but leading the way, as in fact politicians should always do.
But living on the water is still for a tiny minority. The government's emphasis is to protect those on land.
In the past, we built dikes, and when the sea level rises, we make the dike higher. That is not the right way to face this challenge. Now we want to kind of build with nature.
Will the Dutch decision to embrace the water rather than fight against it work?
We should take an ecological approach, try to use the forces of nature to protect the country where possible, The main area where this is really very feasible is in coastal protection, dragging up sand from the North Sea and have the currents actually deposit that sand to extend the coastline and broaden these beaches will be a major protection.
That, together with people sacrificing land along the rivers, may keep the Netherlands dry.
Just let it come. We can't hold it back anyway, and if it comes, we'll try to make the best of it. But we really hope, that we will never experience this again. No more floods.